starting.
Thank you for joining us. We will go ahead and get started in just a moment. We'll just let you all connect to your sound and audio. We are so glad to have you join this session. For those of you who weren't at our last session, I just want to do a quick housekeeping. But before that, I want to make sure you're where you want to be. This is 3 resources, Disability Edition, Managing Time, Money and Energy in Business When You Have a Disability. I'm Caroline Bolas with NDI. We are delighted to meet Maria Chapman, who I'm going to introduce in a moment. Make sure if you need to, you access the captions. They can be found at the bottom of your screen. We do have ASL interpretation. We were hoping to use the interpretation pane, but we're having a few tech issues. So we will have them throughout the event. If you have questions for Maria, please put them in the chat box. No, sorry, in the Q&A box. The chat box we'd love you to use to talk with each other, share your experiences, share resources, as we did in the last session. But sometimes actual questions can be lost. So any for Maria, please stick it in the Q&A and we'll try and answer as many as we can live and see what we can do afterwards if we can't get to them all. If you have any technical issues and can't resolve them, you can email us at info@disabilitysmallbusiness.org and we will try our best to help you. And there are slides for this session and you can download these by going to the live events page, which you use to come to this session, and under the description you'll see the slides that can be downloaded. So with all that out of the way, I am so delighted for Maria to join us. Some of you will have just heard her do an amazing panel with the rest of our amazing speakers. But she's here today as founder of Connected Ghostwriting and Journey to Success. And she's going to share how to manage your time, your money and energy in a way that works with your disability, not against it, and how you can have strategies to really build a business that supports both your health and your goals and works for you. So with that, I am delighted to pass it over to Maria, who will take it away. So thank you again, Maria, for being here.
Yes, thank you so much, Caroline. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and we will get started. As Caroline mentioned, we are here today to talk about the 3 resources, and I call this the Disability Edition. My name is Maria Chapman, and I am the founder of Journey to Success and Connected Ghostwriting. Journey to Success is a nonprofit that helps folks who are disabled mid-career start businesses through community, through mentorship, and through startup assistance. And Connected Ghostwriting is an agency writing for mental health and social justice professionals. I was an educator and I turned to entrepreneurship after paralysis from 2 different neuromuscular conditions, CIDP and myasthenia gravis. Connected Ghostwriting is a 6-figure business as I sit here today, and I work less than 20 hours a week in Connected Ghostwriting. I've added some hours for Journey to Success this year, but my business was entirely built working 20 hours a week or less. I believe in pivoting as a strategy for business and life, and that if we develop the resiliency needed to make pivots when life throws curveballs at us, that we will be successful. On the personal side, I am a parent of 5 children, not all of whom are tiny anymore. We have 3 adults and 2 younger children. I love dogs and I collect all the books. I have a small collection here in my office. Before we get started today, I want to just reiterate that this space at the NDI convening honors your story. And so I would love to have you just answer in the chat right now, what feels most scarce? I'm curious. Do you find that you struggle with time, with energy, or with money more as an entrepreneur who is starting a business or running a business? I am seeing lots of energy in the chat. I'm seeing some time and I'm seeing some money, some all of the above, some none of the above. I love hearing that. All right, see a lot of energy. So I'm seeing energy and money happening here more than time. I see support coming up. And I want to talk today about how we can leverage time, energy, and money for support. So we'll be covering that as well. All right. Thank you everyone for sharing. So a little bit about why I teach this session. So I was in a car once with a group of entrepreneurs. It was during a conference and we were all heading out to dinner. And one of the people sitting behind me said, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. If I can do this, anyone can do it because we all have the same amount of time. And I was the only entrepreneur with disability sitting in the vehicle. And I got into a bit of a debate with her. It was all, everyone was kind and it was well received. But I want to fix this statement. Let's try. So there are 24 hours in a day, but mine and yours look very different. I navigate 2 chronic illnesses. You may have a physical disability. You may have an invisible disability. You might have kids. You might not have kids. You might be taking care of aging parents. And so whether we're disabled or not, and this was my argument with this group of entrepreneurs, everyone's 24 hours look different. And so placing judgment on what someone is able to do with their 24 hours is really misplaced judgment. So today we're going to cover talking about time, energy, and money. And these are really the only 3 resources you have as a human. And I want to talk about how they interact with each other today. When it comes to thinking about your time as an entrepreneur with a disability, I like to first, when I'm coaching folks through my work with Journey to Success, I like to first focus on developing a list of non-negotiables. And so for you, your list will look different than mine. And if you have paper with you right now, I invite you to jot down a list of your non-negotiables or even put them in the chat and let's brainstorm a list of what those non-negotiables might look like. For me, that includes infusions, treatment days. It includes physical therapy and personal training sessions. It includes caregiving responsibilities for my children. It includes time for recovery. I need to lay down most afternoons for a bit of time. It includes an accounting for times when I have a flare or when I get a cold and my entire body seems to get sick because of the autoimmune conditions I navigate. So that's our first step. When it comes to thinking of time as an entrepreneur with a disability, we have to start with our non-negotiables and we have to build those in first. The reason for that is because without taking care of those non-negotiables, nothing else will work. If you don't rest adequately, you won't be able to work adequately. And so make sure you're taking account of those non-negotiables first. Once you've done that, you'll have some amount of time left each week. And at that point, it's time to prioritize and decide which business activities are most important. And there are some questions that you can ask to help you determine this. The first question is, what brings in the money? As a ghostwriter, what brings in the money for me is reaching out to prospects, running sales calls with prospects, and then doing the actual writing. So I have to make sure that I am putting enough time for that in my schedule. If I have a contract for a book, but I don't build in time to write it, what's the point of that contract, right? And then when it comes to marketing, we're not just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. Because when our time is limited, we don't have time to make all that spaghetti. We have to look at what marketing is going to be the most advantageous for us. And this might mean hiring a consultant to help us determine the best ways to market for our type of business. For me as a ghostwriter, networking opportunities are really the most important way for me to market, and referrals as well. So I pay referral fees for people who refer clients to me. And then the third thing is what helps you grow professionally. And this can be what helps you grow as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, and what helps you grow in your specialty. So for me, that looks like classes or courses to improve my writing. That looks like hiring a writing coach for myself. For business, that looks like making sure I invest time into business coaching, whether that's through a mentorship or an entrepreneur group that I'm part of that's a free resource, or if it's someone that I'm paying for coaching. But those are the three things that we need to consider when we're prioritizing our business activities. And then just a note I want to add here is that as entrepreneurs with disabilities, especially those of us who have chronic illnesses, we will have good days and bad days. And so we must plan for that. And so I encourage you to take the time to write down what your bare minimum week might look like. When you are struggling, when you are navigating a flare, you'll need to have that bare minimum already decided so that you don't have to go through the emotions of giving up different things that you were planning on doing that week. So for me, my bare minimum plan is answering emails. It's letting clients know that I'm struggling. I don't work with clients who have trouble with my disability. And that's a choice that I made as a business owner. But you have to have a plan for those bare minimum days where all you can do is what you're able to do from your bed. Now, fortunately, my business is writing. I can write from anywhere. And so often my bare minimum weeks end up being weeks where I get a lot of actual writing done because I don't need to be heading out and doing networking events and things like that if it's a bare minimum sort of week for my conditions. All right. So when we consider all of those non-negotiables and we take out the time that those use, we are left with a certain number of hours. It is not possible. Oh, thank you. Someone said I skipped 3. Yes, so sorry about that. Schedule. I love Spoonie style scheduling, and we'll get to that a little bit more when we talk about energy. But the spoon theory is, everybody has a certain number of spoons that they're able to use in a day, and different activities take certain amounts of spoons. So for me, writing doesn't take very many spoons, which is why I chose that as my main business activity. If writing is something that uses a lot of spoons for you, it's probably not the best business for you to start. Whatever the work is that takes the most spoons, maybe you're someone who's very introverted or struggles with neurodivergence, and you need to reduce the amount of time you spend with people. Maybe mornings are better for you, okay? And so you schedule your hardest work in the morning. I'm seeing in the chat that making food takes away too many spoons for a lot of us. So let's look for ways to offload that, of meal delivery service, something like that. So we want to be creative about looking for things that help reduce the number of spoons we have to use in a day. Okay. All right. So coming to how many hours a week can you realistically work? When I do this, and in my book, The Power of the Pivot, which I'll mention later in the talk, I actually walk through the actual numbers I use for this. But when I subtract my list of non-negotiables, I ended up early on with 5 hours a week that I could work. So I took those 5 hours, I divided them between those 3 questions. How do I make the money? What's the best way to market? And what's the best way for me to develop? Okay. And if you can realistically work more than that, then you do that. But if you can't, start with what you have now. When I started, like I said, I had 5 hours a week that I could work. I don't have 5 hours now. I'm able to work about 30 hours a week now. I split that between my business and the nonprofit. But some weeks I'm able to work less. And that's why we need to have that bare minimum plan. So I'd love to see in the chat about how many hours you can work each week. All right, let's share, because when I first started out, I felt a lot of shame around not being able to work a traditional full-time schedule. Okay, perfect. I love seeing this. I'm seeing 15 to 25, 10 to 15, 30 to 40, 15 to 20. Notice a lot of us are in that 10 to 20 hours a week range. There's no shame in that. This is the way our lives are built. And the traditional corporate ladder that says you have to work 40 hours a week plus in order to succeed wasn't built for us. Okay, I like the line, have you ever tried to climb a ladder in a wheelchair? It's a little difficult. That corporate ladder wasn't built for us. So we get to build a different path. And if your path is 5 hours a week right now, then use it. All right. Moving on to energy. When I first started in entrepreneurship, I heard a lot that time and money were your only resources. And I heard that and it never sat right. And now I know the reason. As an entrepreneur with a disability, and mine's a chronic illness, but even if yours isn't a chronic illness, getting through regular daily life takes more from us than a regularly abled person. Okay. If you are navigating medical needs, if you are having to search for the accessible entrances every time you enter a building, you are using more energy. You are making more decisions. You will have more decision fatigue than regularly abled peers. And that is just a fact. Energy is the real budget when it comes to entrepreneurship with a disability. And I advocate for finding ways to leverage both time and money to protect your energy. And that's what we're going to talk about here. Because your energy drains fast and it doesn't refill just because you want it to. The first thing, and we did a little bit of this in the last section where we talked about those bare minimum days. But let's plan for crashes. Let's plan for overstimulation. Let's plan for the medical fatigue that happens that makes it so we can't even run a meeting after a doctor's visit. Plan time for that. Don't push through. Okay. And this was something I had to learn when I started my entrepreneurial journey. In my previous life, I was a teacher. I had a pile of kids. I would get up in the morning, work out. I'd go to teach all day. I'd parent all evening. And when my husband came home from work and he needed a nap, I'd look at him and say, well, why do you get to rest? Why don't I get to rest? I would like angry clean around him. And then I learned something that he already knew. He wasn't resting because he'd earned it. He was resting because you can't do your best work if you are not rested. You cannot be your best entrepreneurial self if you do not plan for energy protection. This might look like building in buffers between meetings. This might look like building in extra time after a doctor's appointment. This might look like a writing task that will take someone else a half an hour, you give yourself an hour for. The flip side of that, though, is that there are going to be tasks that are easier for you than they are for other people. And so those are the tasks that you can do when your energy is low. And I advise you to save them for those times. Your goal is to do your most difficult work at high energy times. If you already know, I would love to see in the chat what you consider your most difficult work. Is it meeting with other people? Is it networking in person? Is it cooking? Is it email? Is it writing blog posts? Is it bookkeeping? Oh, it's bookkeeping for me for sure. Social media marketing, I'm seeing, yes, in-person communication, writing and editing, cooking, marketing, yes, put the personal stuff in there too. We all have personal lives. So if cooking is hard for you, reading on a computer, yes, that is so hard for me as well. I print everything. Peopling and screen time, absolutely. Yes. All right. Oh, Jennifer, yes, I love that. Rely on the experts so we're not exhausting ourselves. Okay. I love the self-awareness coming in through the chat. I love that you know what your most difficult tasks are. If you don't, if you're in this session and you don't currently know what tasks are your most difficult and your easiest, I encourage you to spend time tracking your energy during the day to determine your best energy times, and then sort of tracking how much energy each task takes. Identify moments when your energy wanes. So I have a burst of energy in the morning, and then around 10 a.m., 10:30, I need a minute. When that happens, if I don't catch it and build in that rest, I might find myself scrolling social media. Did I skip slides again? No, I don't. Nope, didn't. I might find myself scrolling social media, getting distracted so that I'm flipping from one task to another quickly and not completing any of the tasks, right? That's when my ADHD kicks in. I might eat chocolate. Anybody else go to junk food when their energy wanes? So you're going to have a habit that you fall back on when your energy is depleted. Okay. If you know what your habit is, write it in the chat, out yourself right now. Okay. These are the 3 I do. But what do you do? What happens to you when you are depleted and you're not taking the break? Your brain will force you to take that break. We've got games on the phone. Oh, someone goes shopping on Amazon but doesn't buy anything. Yes. All right. Doom scrolling and eating junk food. Absolutely. Okay. We all do this. If you find yourself doing that during one of your work periods, it means your work period is too long. And the thing about a lot of these habits that we develop, that we flip to when we're exhausted, is that they don't actually replenish us. And if they don't replenish us, they will not help us protect our energy, and we will not be able to do our best work. So what do? When you catch yourself doing that, switch to something that refuels you. So for the next week, you don't even have to do this. You just identify when you flip to that habit you want to stop doing. So if you're a social media scroller, just note the times of day that you pick up your phone and start scrolling. Don't have to do anything with them yet. Just make a note of it. And then spend some time thinking about what you can do that will replenish you. Okay. I have my 4 go-tos here. I'm going to ask to hear yours. I love a nappuccino. So what that is, it's not mine. I think it's Daniel Pink came up with this idea. And he named it nappuccino, but you drink coffee and lay down to take a nap. It takes 20 minutes for the caffeine to kick in. You wake up after your 20-minute nap and you're feeling more alert. Eating something nourishing. Okay. And sometimes that means healthy, but sometimes that means chocolate, right? So just make it intentional. Take a walk outside. That's a big one for me. Getting that fresh air can really help refuel me. laying down on the couch and reading. I have Ehlers-Danlos in addition to my neuromuscular conditions. So sitting upright for long periods of time, it hurts. And so if I can find some time to lay flat and take that mental break, that really helps. And as a writer, I always say that I run out of words and I need to read to refill the tank. So really think about something that you can do to refuel and make an actual list. All right, we're already dropping that thing that restores your energy, but I want to go and read out a few ideas in case people are having trouble thinking for themselves of something. Nappuccinos. Oh, coffee makes some people sleepy. That is not my experience. Oh, petting our dog, hanging out with our dogs. Yes. Audiobooks. I love that. Clearing a trail, cutting trees, right? Nature is really refreshing for a lot of us. Taking a bath or shower, reading a book. Oh, I'm seeing like watching 15 minutes of binge TV. So pick something absolutely mindless and garbagey, lay down, watch it for a few minutes. That's perfect. Other people run out of words too. Good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Laughter, yoga. Oh, perfect. I'm seeing horses, laying down. Oh, Charisse playing sound bowls. I knew that about you. Quiet time reading. I'm seeing a lot of nature. Excellent. Bare feet on the ground. I actually have a client that she and I do that before every meeting. We make sure we go outside and do bare feet grounding to make sure that we're ready for our meetings. All right. So before we move on, I just want to restate here that your energy is your most valuable resource, your MVR, when you are an entrepreneur with a disability. Yes, you have to manage time. Yes, you have to manage money, but managing your energy is going to allow you to show up as your best entrepreneurial self at every moment that you're working on or in your business. All right. So this next section I call Money Sans the Hustle. And when I was writing my book about how I built a business with a disability, I got through writing the entire book. And then I went back and said, there's a chapter missing. And I called that chapter The Work Before the Work. And so the work of managing money in business is how do we find the money? How do we make the money? And what do we do with the money that we have? But before we can do that, we have to do the work before the work. And when it comes to money, the work before the work is managing your beliefs and thoughts about money. So I grew up seeing my mom sit at the table, balance her checkbook. And I remember a time when there were 5 kids and my mom was a single mom after the divorce. I remember hearing her say that she had $17 left in the checkbook to last a week. And somehow she made it happen because, you know, women are amazing. And, but what happened for me is I developed this scarcity idea around money. And I developed this fear of spending money. And when you are running a business, you are going to have to spend money. It's absolutely unavoidable. Liz just put a link to my book in the comments. That link might not be working yet. We really just put it up last week, but I do have some information for you at the end of this. So stay with us. And I want you to spend some time sort of thinking about those stories you're telling yourself about money and how you can rewire them. This is something that I did with a money coach and with a therapist. So you can find people that can help you with that. It's also something that I coach people with in Journey to Success. So my first freelance writing gig paid $10 an article, and the articles were 1,200 words. And now I look at that and I start judging the business owners that paid me $10 to write an article. But at that time, it was the first time I had gotten paid for words. And so that was momentum, right? So we took that and we built on it. And in 2024, I averaged $20,000 a month in revenue. In August of 2025, I closed a single contract for $60,000. And to get there from a $10 freelance article writing gig happens one step at a time. It happens one little tiny win at a time and one step at a time. So let's talk about money. I want you to start where you are. $100 extra this month could change something for you. Right now in the chat, I want you to write something that you could do to make $100 this week. Maybe you have something you could sell. What year was the $10 earning? In 2019, I was paid $10 to write an article for a website that I will not name because because I'm judging them for paying me that. Okay, what could you do with $100 or to make $100 this week? Sell a couple of cakes. Excellent. Find a freelance data analysis task. Yes, go on Fiverr or Upwork. Sell some t-shirts or hoodies. Find someone to take portraits for. Excellent. Yes. All right. What about $1,000? Could you make $1,000 this week? Brainstorm a way to make $1,000 this week. Okay. Excellent. All right. So we're starting where we are. We don't have to start off making $20,000 a month. We can start off with $100 this week. We can ask someone to pay us for our expertise. You don't have to make it to six figures right away. Okay. I love this visual of the woman in the wheelchair looking at the stairs, because that's how I felt when I was trying to get a job in the traditional sphere after my disability. It's like, I'm trying to climb this corporate ladder, but I'm sitting in a wheelchair. It's not built for me. We don't have to buy into that pressure. When you are building your monthly budget, your weekly budget for your business and your personal life, make sure you plan for flare weeks and for flexible earnings. So when I say that I averaged $20,000 a month in 2024, that doesn't mean I made $20,000 every month, right? There were months that were lean and months that were not. And you have to plan for that. And so what do we do with money so that we can have a plan for that, right? I love to use predetermined percentages for the different areas of our business. All right, so we did the work before the work with the money story, and this is the actual nuts and bolts of what do we do with the money. So let's say you get that $100 this week, and you decide that you are going to put a certain percent into operating expenses, which means money to run your business. You are going to pay yourself a certain percentage. You're going to save some for taxes, and then you're going to save some in a profit account that you're going to use for large purchases for your business eventually. It's like a savings account for your business. Why do we do this? It makes sure your business expenses are covered. It makes sure you get paid. It makes sure your taxes aren't a surprise. And it makes sure your business builds a savings account. Let's take a look at that, what that could look like. So if you make $100 this week, and I saw someone they said they could do it selling cookies. So perfect, we'll go with that. If you make $100 selling cookies this week, let's say you decide that you're going to spend 45% of that money on operating expenses. That means you're spending $45 on materials to buy materials to make your next batch of cookies. You're paying yourself $40. That goes into your household. Maybe that's fun money that you go and get your nails done with, or take a dance class with, or spend on a nice dinner out. Or an okay dinner out in today's market, right? And then 10% of that we're going to save for taxes. these are just recommendations. I just have to say that my husband is a CPA and would be upset with me if I didn't put that caveat in there. Talk to your CPA about what percent you should be saving for taxes. And then maybe you're putting 5% in that profit account as your business savings. Now, when you're making $100, those numbers don't look like much. But suddenly you make it to, after 10 weeks, you've made $1,000 if you made $100 a week. And now suddenly you have $50 in your profit account that you can use to buy a new piece of equipment for your kitchen where you're baking the cookies that you're selling, right? So having those predetermined percentages takes the emotions out of what you do with the money when you get it. Okay. So I really advocate for doing this. For entrepreneurs that I coach, I advocate that they actually open 4 separate bank accounts for each of these. So they have an account for operating expenses, an account for their pay, an account for tax savings, and an account for profit. It's free to open a bank account, so why not have one for each? All right. So now that we've covered what to actually do with your money, I want to just talk a moment about the reciprocal relationship between time, money, and energy. And I call this the power of the pivot. I said at the beginning that I believe in pivoting as a way of life and business. For disabled entrepreneurs especially, your energy is not endless. Your time might be limited and money can be scarce. Pivoting to entrepreneurship requires that you master the exchange rate between time, money, and energy for your individual situation. All 3 of these are resources that you can invest. You're always exchanging one for the other 2. This is a reciprocal relationship because if you lack one of them, you need to invest more of the others. If you're low on energy, you'll need more time or more money to get the same result. If you're low on time, you might need to pay for support or use energy more intensively. And if you're low on money, you're going to rely on time and energy through DIY learning, networking, and other things that just take a lot more time and energy, but don't cost you much money. When you're a disabled entrepreneur, energy can be unpredictable as well as limited. Time includes medical appointments, recovery days, flare days, and money can be inconsistent or limited due to benefit cliffs or your fixed income. So your pivot has to factor in your reality, not the hustle fantasy that we're sold or the corporate ladder nonsense that we learned before. To see this reciprocal relationship in practice, you could pay for a virtual assistant and leverage money to save some energy. You could batch content creation for high energy days to save time later and preserve energy for those flare times that we talked about and those bare minimum weeks. You can take a free course to save money instead of hiring a coach. Okay, and you can leverage time in order to save money. The pivot mindset is a shift that takes you from how do I do everything myself to how do I optimize and trade my resources wisely. I will say that there are a number of entrepreneurs in this group. I hope you're networking with one another that have different specialties. Early on in my business, I was able to barter with other entrepreneurs. And I was able to barter for things like search engine optimization help or photography by doing some writing or some coaching for them. Smart pivots let you build a business that works with your body and your life. So use your resources wisely. If you already know what your next micro pivot, your next small change is going to be that makes your business more time, money, or energy friendly, drop it in the chat to give some ideas to the rest of our folks here. You might drop a task this week that you realize isn't serving you. You might shorten your work sprints. Or maybe you find an intern from a local college to help you with some of your tasks. All right, a lot of you are asking about my book in the chat. So The Power of the Pivot is coming in May 2026. It includes my story and stories from other entrepreneurs. I have lots of tools in there, including the time, money, and energy stuff we talked about today. And if you want to get on the wait list, there is a QR code as well as a link. Getting on the wait list will enter you into my email list as well. And I will be sharing lots of entrepreneurial tips, but also I'm a ghostwriter. So I have some free writing resources and book planning resources that I will be sharing in there. So you can use the QR code here on this slide. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. So, all right. And then I do have some additional free resources as well. And don't worry, this is on the next slide as well. So if you didn't get the link yet, don't worry. One note, the budget sheet that's linked here, the link is wrong. And my assistant and I noticed that today. So if you join the wait list for the book, our first email will include the actual proper link to the budget sheet. But I do have a Spoonie time and energy tracker that you can download and use. I have a business plan template that is just a simple, straightforward thing that you can use. And then there's the book waitlist link there again. All right. And that is all I have for you today. I'm happy to answer any questions. So Caroline, I know you said you'd come back on.
It certainly will. First to say, I know there's been some issues with the slides. They should now be up in the live events page where you access these. If they're not, they will be. They were there earlier and somehow they were disappeared, but they are back, we think. So they will definitely be there.
Caroline, I can also make sure to email them out to anyone who joins the waitlist for the book. So
Perfect.
that's another way you can get them if you're having trouble with the links.
But they definitely will be there. And we are going to keep in touch with Maria because it was such an amazing session that we need to make sure that she continues to support us. So we've been answering some of the questions along the way, but there's a couple of questions around like hiring a coach or a mentor, and how did you go about vetting to make sure that the people you were working with were both legitimate and a good fit?
So the legitimacy can be difficult. I really like asking for references and speaking to people who have worked with that coach before and really asking questions to dig into the type of work that they do and whether or not it aligns with you. Make sure you're asking questions specifically regarding your disability or any accessibility needs that you have. I hired a coach once who wouldn't give forms that you could type into. She would only give forms that you had to hand write on. And at the time, my hands didn't work properly, so I couldn't use them. And when I asked her to make that change, she refused. So it's important that you're asking questions to determine if they're going to be a good fit for your disability. But I also recommend asking for references.
Excellent. And someone just said they may have missed it, but could you just very briefly say what Journey to Success is as your nonprofit?
Yes. Journey to Success is a baby nonprofit. We are less than a year in, but we help people who are disabled mid-career start businesses. And so we have folks who developed MS or had a traumatic brain injury and can no longer work in their traditional employment, but who maybe don't qualify for Social Security or just don't have the tools or resources to start a business. And so we offer mentorship. We have an online community that's just getting started. We only have 3 participants right now. So the online community is very small. But we are building an online academy as well that will have online courses that you can take to help you ideate and start a business that works for your life.
Excellent. And there's a few questions generally about mentors and do they charge? And just wanted to remind people if you go to our booths where we have our exhibitions, you can find NDI's website and small business information in our NDI booth. We also have SCORE who provide free mentorship across the country. We also have some other booths that find you support and some mentorship, some resources. So all the ones that are asking for that, a lot we will be able to find in those booths. But I just have another question, and it's probably the last one because of time. But how important is it to find friends and support to help lean on when you need to find spoons?
When you need to find spoons. I like that. Um, I mean, I live in a house with teenagers, so sometimes all the spoons are missing from the drawer. So I have a very good visual there. But as far as friends to lean on, I found that once I started my own business, I had trouble relating to friends that weren't entrepreneurs, or rather, they had trouble relating to me. And so I ended up having this friendship need, right? I needed friends who were also entrepreneurs. And so I would encourage you to definitely check out your local Chamber of Commerce meetings, or your small business association, and go find your people. A lot of these places have virtual meetings in addition to in person. And if they don't, ask for that accommodation if you can't get to an in-person meeting. But it is vital to have a support system around you as an entrepreneur and as just a human. We're made to relate and connect with one another.
Excellent, thank you. And I don't know, Maria, if you had a chance to look at the chat, but if you do, and we're certainly going to collect it all anyway, there is just so much love and gratitude and thanks. And what you have
So
said
much.
has so resonated with the audience today.
So
So just thank you for this.
yeah, I also wanted to, some people were putting my personal website in the chat, which is fine, but it's under construction, so you won't find a lot there. So if you're looking for more, I did put the Journey to Success link and the connected ghostwriting link in the chat for my business and the nonprofit. So if you're wanting to learn more, those are just better options right now.
And again, you can find those on the slides from our first session. So that would be going back to the opening plenary, downloading those slides. You have Maria's contact information there. But yes, just really want to thank Maria. It has just been such an amazing session, like I said, which has so resonated with the audience today. Really would urge you, our audience, to complete that brief feedback survey. You'll see in the live events page, there's a rate this session. You can just rate it, or you can also add comments, and we really value that. We're going to move and take another 10-minute break, and then we'll have the next of our concurrent sessions. During that time, as we said, please do visit those booths. There is so much there, which I think will answer the questions we haven't been able to get to, and ones that are more general. And as I say, feel free to connect with NDI. Our contact information is in those booths. We would love, it was on the email that we sent you to come here today. We have many more resources and support, and the entrepreneurial guide that is in the resources tab has so many links as well. So we can definitely do our best to support you. But with that, we'll close out, give you your 10 minutes, and just thank Maria again for just an amazing presentation. So thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, interpreters. And Liz, thank you, everybody who's here. I appreciate it.